Hello everyone. So today we will talk about public speaking. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what is actually public speaking. If we look at the dictionary, we will find out that public speaking is defined as communicating to an audience, communicating in public. So actually, if you are speaking to your friends, you are doing public speaking. And so these kind of situations we face them every day. But today we're going to focus on um, more business-oriented situations like speaking at a conference or making a product presentation to your client or delivering project reports to your peers. So situations like that. How to make it good, how to make it more effective. Before we start, I'm going to tell a little bit about myself. So my name is Vadim, and I'm MVP for Microsoft project. I'm author of books on Microsoft project, and I do project management consulting since 2002. And also since 2002, I work as a trainer, as a professional speaker. And, and actually, I faced with this when I started doing my consulting business. I had to deliver trainings, I had to deliver private presentations, I had to deliver marketing presentations, and so that's how I started practicing speaking. And since that, I delivered a lot of actually trainings and I took part in many events. And in previous year, I got a silver medal in national competition of business trainers. So I work a lot in this area. And today I would like to share some insights and some findings I got in public speaking. Uh, so probably if you're connected to the session, you might already have some experience in public speaking, or maybe you are you are preparing to a next presentation you have to deliver. Maybe you're looking to improve your public speaking skills. Uh, so to start, I'd like to give you some minutes so you could write down for yourself what were the problems or issues that you faced before. Maybe what kind of concerns you have preparing to your next speech. So then we will go through these issues and problems and concerns in the rest of my presentation. So I'm going to show you the timer, and you could write this down for yourself. If you would like, you can send me some questions through Q&A now. And then when you do this, we will proceed to the next slide. Okay, so it seems like we had enough time for that. And now, uh, what I'd like to ask you is to analyze what you have written for yourself. I do this kind of trainings, of course, longer and many audiences. And what I see, what I discuss with trainees, um, I see that they write down more or less similar problems, similar issues. First of all, many people, or like my wife does, they just fear public speaking. They just feel a fear when they come to an audience. And you might be surprised that there is even a phobia, it's called glossophobia, phobia of public speaking. And many people, according to recent studies, they fear public speaking more than death, which can be surprising. Uh, Beside of that, people write down and tell me that they feel frustrated when they did a speech. They feel that they were not effective as a speaker. They, for example, they say that my colleagues told me I was boring. Or maybe people see that their audience is chatting in the mobiles when they speak, and all things like that. So to generalize, most of the issues and the problems people tell me, maybe you have the same now in your where you put your notes in your book note. Uh, People say that they feel that their communication was not a success, and their communication uh, didn't reach the goal that they set for themselves. So that is the first, actually, the first point I would like to tell about that. If you want your communication to be effective, you need to start with setting the goal for your public speaking. So think about that. What actually do you want from your audience? And what do you want from this session you deliver, from the speech at the conference, from a project presentation? Um, you maybe want to give some information, or maybe educate people on some topic, or maybe provide a detailed plan, or train skills, or maybe just give a direction somewhere so people will think about it later on. Or you may want to raise interest in a topic or in your product, or you may just want to get remembered as a person. That may be your goal. So you have to set a goal for yourself. What do you want at the end of the speech? And of course, we have to check this goal, how realistic it is, how relevant it is. Let's think about it in more detail. The first thing is that the goal should be relevant to the timing that you have. I've seen many times, when people try to provide a sort of training that pack a lot of information in their 30 minutes presentation. That's impossible. It's like, imagine if I will try to teach you public speaking in 40 minutes that I have today. It's impossible. So I cannot set this kind of goal for myself. So be relevant to the timing that you have. Second, be relevant also to the time of the day when you deliver. I mean, if you deliver in the evening, like I do now, of course people are tired. They cannot, they cannot accept a lot of information at this time. Or if you're speaking just after the lunch break at the conference, you have to think about that, how you will involve people in a speech, maybe make them stand up or whatever. Also, you're speaking before the lunch break when people are hungry. It's also not that easy. So be relevant to the daytime when you deliver. Also, you have to think that the goal of a speech should be relevant to the form of the communication. Right now, I'm doing this online. I don't see you. So I cannot set the high goals for myself rather than just give you some direction on a project on public speaking. If we were sitting in the same room, we could maybe try some skills. I can give you examples, or I can do some demonstrations live, like body language, for example. I could show you how I use it. Actually, I'm using body language now, but you just don't see me. Also, your goal should be relevant to the audience interest. Sometimes, when you speak at the conference or when you're at a big event, people may not be that much interested in what you're speaking about. And so you have to align your goal with the audience goal. And we'll discuss it a little bit later. So the correctly set goal, I would say, is 50% of the success of your speech. And it's very, very important. And of course, when you do your public speaking exercise, you have to set an expectation for your audience based on the goals that you have. You have to explain what your attendees will achieve during your session. For example, our session today is designed just to provide some basic guidelines and key elements you need to make a great public speech. But it's just basic guidelines and key points because we have just 40 minutes and we are online, so we cannot do it and we cannot dig in more detail. And also, next week I'll do a separate presentation, a separate speech on making presentations, which is a part of public speaking. So some part of public speaking will be discussed in more detail next week, and we'll proceed then. So first of all, we set goal. We have to set a goal. The second point we might go through once we set a goal, of course, we have to develop a plan for a speech. Sounds simple, right? So when you develop a plan, what things you should consider? You have to think about the concept of the message and the medium, so the form of the delivery. And I will start with the form of the delivery. So what's important for the form? Like, first of all, if we are speaking in the room, think, will you use a microphone? But sometimes there is a room like 20, 30, 40 people, and that you can speak without a microphone actually. And if you want to be like sound more natural, so the people trust you more, you may just sit in the front, in the middle of the audience, and speak without microphone. But sometimes it's better if you provide some exercises. People will speak, and you want to be louder than them. Then you might consider using microphone. So think about that. Think: will you sit or stay during your speech, or how you will use it? Do you need a chair, or you will stay all the time? It's also important because in a smaller groups, if everybody sits and you stay up, it may seem like you push a little bit on the audience. So think about that. Think about the way you look like. Would you like to be more formal or informal? It makes an impression, and it adds to your message actually. What will be your language style? Again, formal or informal? What kind of lexic will you use? And of course, think about your body language. Later we go through that. I specifically advise you to train the body language, the gestures that you use during your speech, the pose that you use. It's added to a message. Now think about that. The second point, the second part of the plan, of course, is around the content. And if you plan your content, you should think, first of all, will you use slides? Will you use a projector and a PowerPoint or not? Imagine you have a speech like for 15 minutes somewhere at a conference, or you give a small pitch on a project. Sometimes it's much more effective to speak without any slides, to avoid technical risks, again, to be more natural, and maybe just print some handouts and give them to your audience, if it's a small audience. Of course, if you do a long speech, like a 1 day training or half day training, of course you need supporting slides so people can follow you, and you ensure that they follow you and they are on track. So think about slides, yes or no. The second point is think about using music. If you have, for example, I love when I go on stage, when I appear the larger audience, I use music with it. Also, I put in music when I give some exercises to my audience. I can also use music, certain slides just to grab the attention of the audience. So in PowerPoint you can easily add the music tracks you can incorporate into slides, and it's a great tool that you can use. Also, movies, movie fragments. Think about it, because if you add pictures, if you add movies to your speech, it's interesting. It grabs the attention of the audience. People love it. Of course, don't use it heavily. Think about it, but maybe you can use it if you know some movie that resonates with what you are going to speak about. The next point is live demos. Do you actually need a live demo of your product, or you can use it screenshots on slides? And I will let Ron talk a little bit about if live demos really needed or not, because I have my opinion on that, and I can tell it's a secret. Over last, I think, maybe last 10 years, or maybe more than 10 years, I never do live demos of Microsoft project. And still my presentations are very good. So I tell you a little bit why I do it this way. And finally, think about storytelling, about the stories that you can use in a public speech. Some personal stories, some market stories, some case studies, whatever. So these are all pieces of your content. And you have to make the optimum mix for the content according to your goal. And also, I would like to give you one concept that I use. I read somewhere that people actually, that people forget what you told. People forget your message very quickly. Specifically, if you are on the conference, they listen to 10, 11, maybe 12 speeches in a day. And of course, they forget most of what you said. But people remember the emotions that you raised. So they remember how you delivered your message. So it's very important. And I suggest that you focus on the delivery rather on the content. Of course, it should be relevant. Of course, you should not use, too much movies, too much music. There should be content. But don't try to push, to jam pack too much content in small time that you have. Typically, the problem that I see in many events, and you might see this as well, is that speaker says, "Oh, I have I have less time that I needed," and so he skips slides, he cuts the speech, he doesn't have enough speech. So typically, what I do, I plan my speech for maybe actually 5-10 minutes less. I plan less content on my slides if I use slides, and I try to speak slowly. I try to give more examples, but I try to deliver the way that people remember, to make it more engaging. And I think it's more important. And so I suggest that you try to avoid this. Try to avoid this typical mistake to pack a lot of content. Focus on delivery. And I think the most important is to make your message remarkable. So speak the way that people remember. Remember yourself. Remember that you spoke. Remember that they enjoyed what you told them about. That's I think most important thing in a public speaking. Like I visited the birthday like last year, and I remember people were speaking toasts. And I remember one guy who speak great toast. I don't remember the toast, what he told, but I remember there was great toast and we all enjoyed it. So that's important in public speaking, and that's what I think we should focus on. So now let's think about how can you make a session or speech or a presentation actually remarkable. What tools can you use? Organizing your content. I give you some ideas that I love. Of course, not all of them, but first trick, I call it the Sherlock Holmes trick. I call it for myself. I never saw it in literature. It's just my name. To explain it, just think about the story and the plot of the story. What's the difference? Like, if you remember any of the Sherlock Holmes books, they all have similar plot. Like somebody kills someone, Then Sherlock Holmes is getting invited. He examines all those obstacles and finds the killer. So that's the plot. It's linear. It's very easy. But story is different because story has a certain composition of events. It's not linear. It's not linear as a plot. It's like first we are somewhere in the middle of the story, in the middle of the plot. We get acquainted with Sherlock Holmes, with his apartments and blah blah blah. Then somebody comes in, tells about the murder that happened a few days ago. We go to the back of the plot, then we go a little bit further, then we go a little bit back, and so on and so forth. So we move around the plot and according to the composition, and finally get to an end. So what I wanted to explain, if your speech is linear, like you say A, B, C, D, F, then people get boring. People get boring. That actually, if it's getting clear to them, they may guess what you're talking in the next slides. They will go to their mobiles and chat with each other and leave your session, etc. So think about the composition of your public speech and make a story of it. For example, today, I gave you time to write and think about your issues and concerns. And then magically my presentation is getting focused on them. I gave you a task, and after that I showed you the agenda, which is not standard. It's not a linear that you maybe get used to in other speeches. So that's something that breaks the typical template, and people are getting engaged. Think about this. Like, sometimes I want to deliver certain information. For example, what are typical mistakes in managing projects? Imagine I just show you the slide. It's not interesting. You will not remember that. I can do this differently. I can ask my audience, hey guys, please join in groups. I give you 5 minutes, write typical problems. Then I give the microphone, they tell them to me, and after that I show them my slides. It's much more engaging. I provide the same information, but I engage them, and I bet that they remember much more than if I just show them the slide. Then give them an option, give them tasks, give them options to guess or to discuss. For example, people raise the problems. They say, okay, we know that in project management, yes, there are 10 problems. Okay, now I give them problem number 1 and say, okay, guys, now try to guess how you can solve it. Give me the options. And then I can give them tools to solve them that I suggest to use. So it makes a presentation non-linear. Of course, you know all the answers in advance, but you engage the audience. You give them time to guess, to provide their solutions, to discuss. And this makes presentation much more interesting. So think about that. Live demos. Think if you really need them, if you really want to use a demo. First of all, live presentation, of course, is a huge risk for you because something may not work, etc., etc. But the other thing I can tell you, I can tell you a real story. I have a friend of mine. He's a sales manager for one of the largest Russian software company, and he's the best sales manager in the company for many years. He even got the Golden Rolex from the president of the company a few years ago. A great sales manager. And because he's my friend, I know this. And he told me his secret. He told me, over these years, I never demonstrated our products to clients. I tell about features. I move my hands in the air. I talk about it, but I never show it on the screen. What happens when he does it? People who are listening, they imagine. They use their fantasy. And they imagine the software the way they want. And if you have, 10 people in the audience, each of them imagine it the way he wants. And of course they buy it. And of course then, during the project of implementation, this company, they adopt the software according to wishes and fantasies of different users. But it's much more effective. Then you make this demo like hundreds of other companies and go through click, 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 click. So I think that live demo is not something that you need. Again, what is your goal? If your goal is to give a demo to top managers, if you want to educate technical people, of course you have to do a live demo, you have to show them how to click on certain buttons. That engagement is actually connected also to, much connected to energy and attention of people. And think about that. Also, read on internet that attention of your audience, it changes over time. Like when you appear on the stage, when you stay in front of them, people are interested in you maybe for, I don't know, 30 seconds. And then they get tired and attention goes away. And if you're speaking after lunch in 15 minutes, then some of them may go asleep, literally. So you should think about that. How you will grab their attention. Imagine just that every maybe 10 or 15 minutes, you need to do something to again raise attention to the subject. Like the first tool I started using 15 years ago is easy questions to the audience. Like ask a question, like raise hands who do this and that. And typically I even, what I do in my slides, I change the title of the slide, this title, I change it to italics. For me, it's a remark I need to ask the question at this point. So when I see this slide with italics, I ask something to my audience. And it's very useful, like raise hands who develop a plan for their speeches. Okay. And so on and so forth. So this is the easiest tool, and you have to use it. Maybe every 5 minutes you have to use it. Otherwise, people forget about you. Also, movies is a great way to grab attention. If you speak about something, a short movie fragment, or maybe some funny picture from internet, or maybe some personal picture from your vacation, etc. I drive motorcycle and use some examples from my motorcycling, and I show pictures with my accidents, with my motorcycle flying over the street, etc. It grabs attention. Also think about turning on music on certain slides. You're speaking, you click on that music sounds. People heads up. People heads are going up, of course. Also, you can sometimes you can add sound effects when you change your slides. When in PowerPoint you have this option, and if this happens, if sound is something strange a little bit, then every time you change the slide, this sound happens, and people again raise their hands up. What's going on? So it's also interesting. It's also useful. Another thing, you can add stories in the course of the speech. You can add funny stories or horrifying stories, personal stories, so something that again grabs attention for the audience. Again, you can use volume. You can use volume, and you can use speed of your speech. It's also very powerful. You can hear it now. So use the volume, use the speed, change it from time to time. Again, plan for it. Think about it. For example, you speak quite fast, then make it slow. Or another good option is just to make a pause, just to be silent for like 5-10 seconds, and you will see that everybody will again heads will go up. So these were some key points. So develop a plan for the medium, develop a plan for the message. Think about how you make your speech remarkable. Think about the story. Think about the plot. Think about managing the energy of your audience. And now we're gonna to delivery. Because delivery, how to deliver a great speech. You know what I do? Of course, you have to prepare it. You have to prepare your content, and you have to make repetitions in front of the mirror, or maybe with your fellow friends, with the audience. It's very important. And as I told you, think about the body language as well. Because when you're in front of the mirror, you can change your pose, you can use gestures. Actually, I found some websites you can also easily find on the internet. They suggest gestures. There are some interesting gestures you may use. There's some videos about that. So just if you want to develop your public speaking skills, just check this and use as much gestures as, of course, as suitable and as possible. Also, what I do, of course, I visit the venue. I visit the venue before the speech, typically one day before, and to get familiar with it. Just I speak, and you can check on my Facebook. There are lots of pictures with empty halls that I typically post on Facebook, like with 1,000 seats or several hundred seats. For these larger venues, I like to come to take a look, to stay on the stage, to move around, to get used to it, to think about how I will, where I will stay, where I will move, and so on and so forth. So it also makes me less nervous actually when I come for actual presentation, for actual speech there. So get familiar with the place where you're going to deliver your public speech. Also, get ready for change. Because sometimes if you ask your audience at the beginning about their expectations when you set the goals for your speech, the people might say, we have different expectations. Or could you please focus on something specific? So have some extra content with you. And so you can fulfill the specific requirements. And have some additional content you can share. It will be good. I have some questions here, so I'll read them and before we proceed, and I'll answer. So could you give some piece of advice about overcoming fear of seeing before a speech? As I told you, it's typical fear. So I can tell you, guys, I can tell you a secret that I have been delivering for like 15 years, even more, from 2002, for 17 years. And my maximum hall was 900 people, 900, maybe 1,000 people I spoke to. And still, I feel nervous. Even when I speak online, I feel a little bit nervous before I start. Okay, when it started, it's okay, but before I start, I feel a little bit nervous. So what I do, I get prepared to the venue, as I told you. Also, you can use breath exercises, like when you take some, 3, 5 longer breaths. Also, what I do, I prepare and maybe learn by heart the beginning of your speech. For example, first maybe 2-3 minutes when you appear on the stage, how you welcome your audience. Maybe your first question and ask to raise hands. So something like that. So you warm up yourself, you start, and after that it's easier. So I think the most nervous piece is maybe first several minutes. So you have to be well prepared, exceptionally well prepared to deliver this first minutes. Then it's getting easier. How to hide it when also the same person asks how to hide it when there's some fear, like loud breathing, microphone, nervous behavior. Actually, I think the best thing is just practicing. So the more you practice, then the fear goes away, and it goes away, and become less and less. So just do it more, do it faster, and it will become easier. But if you are nervous, what you can do? You can train your gestures in advance. So you use the gestures the way you want. You don't try to hide your hands somewhere and so on. You can also train specifically stage speaking. You can take trainings if you want. If like it's a problem and you feel it, you can develop a special stage speaking. Again, you can find on YouTube a lot of free videos, or you can find specialists on that. For example, I took these classes in one of the theaters. Typically, in theaters, you can take it. It's not that expensive, or it's actually the same as vocal classes. You can check lessons like how to learn singing, and there in YouTube there are hundreds and hundreds of them. You will know about what is a vocal position, as the same as speaking position, and if you have it, you can if you use this position, then nobody will feel that actually you are nervous. Another question is, what is the best way to prepare public speaking in different language like English? I can't say that there is something specific when you speak in different language, because all the rules are the same. The only question is how you, the level of your English language or another foreign language. I mean, how you speak in it, how good you are in English. So if you have problems, if you're not a good speaker, maybe you have to write down your speech. I don't know. But you know what I do? What I love, preparing to speech. I write down like the main ideas I'm gonna focus about. Maybe some points I'd like to stress out. I don't write, of course, everything I want to speak about. But if you are not good at English, you may write it down. But again, if you have all your text written down, it is a problem, because if you read, people feel it, and the attention goes away, unfortunately. So let's go to the next step. But anyway, guys, thanks for good questions, for great questions. Please write down, send me another questions if you have. So the next very important thing after you deliver the speech, here, as you can guess, try to collect feedback. So you can collect it. If you do a training, you can collect with evaluation forms, with online evaluation forms, or you can ask your friend or some colleague to attend your speech and to give you feedback. A great option is actually to make a video recording on the iPhone, for example, and then view it. When you view it yourself, you see very well what are your problems, and you know very well what you should train when you will do the next speech. Actually, I do record some of my speeches. If you'd like to, you can check my YouTube channel. You can see some speeches I delivered and the gestures I use and the way I do it. I can't say that I'm the best speaker, but anyway, I have some good speeches I like. I have them on my channel. And so, of course, after you have collected feedback, you have to improve. It's a typical cycle. You should improve all the time. Then you will become better and better speaker. I can tell you that when I started in 2002, I had a problem. My greater problem, my problem number one was that I had a fear to ask my audience a question, to ask a question to an audience, to ask them, for example, who used Microsoft Project, please raise hands. It was very hard for me. And I pushed myself, maybe for a couple of months, to do this. Of course, now it's natural for me. So the same for gestures, the same for movies, because you never know, when you show a movie, how people will react. I had sometimes I had a movie, certain movie fragments that didn't resonate at all, and the audience looked at me like, "Wow, why do we see this?" So you have to find your drawbacks, areas for improvement, and improve them. Then you will become a better speaker. So the good news is that you have a lot of resources that you can use. You can find a lot of books online. I mean, today I gave you some directions. You can focus on some of the areas for the next 3-6 months. You can find a lot of books online, a lot of free books also. Yeah, there are lots of YouTube videos you can check on the certain areas. Just type in gestures or body language or developing presentation. Actually, when I prepared today, I also reviewed Google. I checked, for example, if you put like 20 fears of public speaking, you find a lot of resources and also with advice on how to overcome these fears, like breathing, like drinking water, and so on and so forth. So also you can attend trainings. I also attended the 7 trainings on public speaking, and I like it because when you get on the training for like one day, you can try your speaking skills. You can immediately see the video recording. You can get the feedback. You can also see other speakers on the training. The other attendees how they speak. You can see their mistakes, and you can find the same mistakes in yourself, and you can fix it. So training in person is quite good. It's quite intensive, optimal way to make it fast. So that's it actually for this year. We are now 2049. So yeah, I'm like 9 minutes above the schedule. That plan, but still we have some time for Q&A. And please feel free to send me questions, and I will. While you do this, I will show you my contact information. Sorry for my English, as I come from Russia originally, and so most of my resources they are in Russian, like my website. You can reach me on email. I also have LinkedIn profile, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. In Facebook, you can just type my name and you find me. So I'm happy to be in touch. My main area, of course, is project management, a Microsoft project. So on LinkedIn, I have big user group. I manage a group of 12,000 people, focus on project management. I also, on my website, you can find some newsletters. I do weekly newsletter on how to be a better project manager in Russian at the moment. So please let me know if you have any questions. Maybe if you need some other ideas. Okay, I'll just wait for a couple of minutes. Okay, so while you type your questions, I just remembered one more advice I would like to give to the person who asked me about feeling nervous. I think that the good preparation, repetitions, and a good plan makes it easy to speak. And recently, I prepared a completely new presentation on a new topic. I did first time, and I think the preparation took me 1 day for 1 minute of presentation. So 30-minute presentation took me 1 month to prepare. So just to give you an idea of how long might it take to prepare a good presentation, it was very good presentation. We developed very nice slides with the designer, so design slides with good pictures, some drawings specifically made for the presentation. So with a 30 minutes presentation, I had slides, I had timing, so I know specifically how many minutes I will need for the certain piece of presentation. So I know exactly when I need to make a joke, when I need to make a question, and so on and so forth. So just to give you an idea how long might it take the preparation. And you can imagine that if you're working for like 1 month on a presentation, then of course when you deliver it, you feel yourself very good. You feel yourself conscious. But of course, 30 days, not every day. Not full 30 days. Of course, it was maybe 1 hour, 30 minutes per day or something like that. But anyway, it took me quite long. There's another question. If I'm writing articles, can I improve my speech too? Of course, of course. Actually, if you If you look at the books on rhetorics, I hope I pronounced it right, from antique authors, um, they say that actually the uh, rules and principles of writing a story and delivering a story and speaking it loud are more or less the same. The only difference is that you have to also focus on the delivery, on your tone, on your gestures, on the way you move on the stage, on the way you interact with the audience, and so on. So this is a little bit more complicated than just writing a story. Okay, guys. So it seems like we don't have any more questions. So first of all,